here we go.
What an intro.
You want to give it a shot, Nickon?
I should, just for tradition's sake. All right, what do I say? I say,
Welcome.
hello. I start with hello. Then I say, welcome back to another episode of Splitting Hairs with Max, Nicky, and Nickon. See,
And then you say, I can't do this.
I can't do this. I can't do this.
It's kind of like that. You know how the Beastie Boys were hosting? Oh no, sorry. It started with Elvis Costello, and on Saturday Night Live, and he was doing one song, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't do this," and then so he does this other song, and then he was kicked off of SNL for doing that for a really long time.
Really? Damn.
And then the Beastie Boys were on in the early '90s. Or something like that.
No, it was
Maybe
the late 90s.
Late 80s or something like that.
The late 90s.
Late 90s? Was that long?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they start doing a song, and then they stopped, and I think they said, sorry, we can't do this. And they brought Elvis Costello on to perform.
Wow.
And
That's
it was a
awesome.
big thing. It was a big deal. And then Elvis Costello, I think, had been taken. You know, his privileges had been returned to being on the show. But I don't know. It's kind of
Anyway.
What a weird reason to get kicked off. I mean, did he like do some kind of vulgar, or did he pull a Nirvana and play "Rape Me" or something? Like, what was
No, it wasn't like I don't think the song.
I don't remember, actually.
I think it was like an Ed Sullivan type of thing. You know, Buddy Holly and the Crickets were kicked off of Ed Sullivan because they wanted to do Peggy Sue, and Ed Sullivan wanted them to do something that was, I don't know, a little bit slower and not as rocking, I guess. And they decided to do that, and so they cut Buddy Holly's amp, his guitar amp. So you see him like really hitting hard on his guitar during his solo, and you can kind of actually hear it, which is kind of funny. And because of that, and they never were allowed to return.
Damn.
Funny.
Wow. Anyway, welcome to another edition of Splitting Hairs with Max, Nicky, and Nickon. As usual,
I'm Max.
I'm Nicky.
And I'm Nickon.
And together we
are
Max, Nicky, and Nickon.
How many times did you guys rehearse it before you got it down for the stage? Like,
Well, for the stage,
I was born ready.
for all the non-Max and Nicky fans, which is inconceivable, but if you don't know, for their live act, that's their intro. You want to do the intro really quick that you do?
We basically just did it, but
it's
minus
like,
Nickon.
thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I ruined it, so
Right.
do it without me.
It's basically, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, I'm Max.
And I'm Nicky.
And together we're Max and Nicky.
And
We
that
have got
that's
a
good
great
laugh.
show in store for tonight. But first, Max, I really got to go
Right,
pee.
that does get a laugh just because
It's funny.
it's kind of like a, yeah. Well, actually, that comes from like an old, I think kind of like old stand-up style or even vaudevillian type of thing. I think people a lot of times used to, if they had a duo act, they used to, if they were called like, or maybe Martin Lewis or something like that. Let's just use them. They probably didn't do it like that at all, but let's just use that as the names. But they would say, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, I'm Martin and I'm Lewis. Together, we're Martin and Lewis. But I don't think both of them would say Martin Lewis at the same time. But that would be a thing that they... What, Nicky? You were going to say?
Well, I was going to say, we did a show recently that had another duo on it. Mm-hmm. And they also do that same kind of intro.
They do.
And so but because we went first, they went, I'm... Alex and I'm something, and together we're Max and Nicky. They said Max and Nicky because they were like, because afterwards they told us we do the same thing, but we thought it'd be funny to say Max and Nicky because
Right, but I don't think...
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
I don't think anyone else, I hope not, says Max and Nick, like they say their names together at the same time. Right?
I don't know. I think maybe they did. Anyway, hopefully.
I don't know. I'd
Anyway,
like to
what
think
is-
that our laugh is deserved somehow.
I mean, it's funny. It's funny is funny. If you're the only people who do it, if you're the thousandth
Right. There's
people
also
who come up with it.
only so many duo acts anyway. So
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Splitting Hairs. Sorry for the very long intro we just had, but I hope
I'm not sorry about that.
I hope you were entertained by it anyway.
Hope you were laughing. And isn't that what it's all about?
On this edition, we are going to be talking about age and getting older.
Why are we doing that?
Well, because, I mean, this podcast episode will be released afterwards, but within the span of 5 days, it has been Nikon's birthday and our birthday. Our birthday will be tomorrow. Nikon's was a few days ago. And age is on the mind, at least for Nicky and me, which is why Nickon will be the mediator in this episode, because I guess his opinions on it aren't as strong as ours. Is that right? Or,
yeah, I guess that's a good way
sort
to
of
classify it.
What's the word?
Immortal.
Where you don't care either way. What's
indifferent?
Not indifferent, but
no, I think indifferent.
No. You're what's the word?
Not apathetic.
Apathetic, sure.
Maybe that just has a
kind of like
doesn't sit right. But whatever.
Yeah, no, I get you. That doesn't have a kind of. I get you. That's apathetic. That sounds like
it feels like I've given up. Almost.
You've given up. Yeah.
And in some ways you have.
Indifferent.
Indifferent means that you don't have an opinion one way or the other. Apathetic just sounds like you don't care about it at all. Like there's a I don't know. There's a teenage apathy associated
right, like
with
what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Let me ask you this.
In caring about my age.
Does the word pathetic have something to do with apathy?
Well, pathos. There's emotion, emotion behind it or sympathy or whatever.
Okay, but then pathetic.
So they're related, of course.
So apathetic is you don't carry an emotion one way or another.
So pathetic is kind of like you want people to feel sorry for you in a way, or what?
Yeah, what does the thetic do? What is the
thetic means apathy, etic. It's that tense.
Right.
It's that form of not tense, but that form of.
I'm following you with
word.
Pathos. This is our grammar lesson of the week. I'm following you on pathos, right? So path, that's the root of pathetic. But what does the etic do to pathos?
Well,
in this instance.
Well, it's just a form of verb. It's like separating it from.
He's not asking.
I know
the way it's constructed or the intention of the suffix. He's asking what the suffix means. The suffix means, and I'm asking that.
No,
too,
he is saying
prophetic is
he's saying the ick. He's saying that you're basically saying the ick part.
Well, I'm saying we know what pathetic means. We know what pathetic means.
The tick part, right?
Etic.
So we know pathetic. So in other words, you're like saying
we know what pathos. We know
if you said biology, for instance. No, actually, no. I don't understand. I don't know what you mean.
Okay, so
I understand. I get.
Thank you. So let me get a sentence out.
Low G. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So prophetic means of or relating to a prophecy, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But pathetic. I guess, does pathetic mean of or relating to emotions, and then we've taken it to mean something else?
Could be.
Right. Well, I guess when you end something like low G, so pathology, it has its the study of is with ology, right? So pathology would be the study of actually isn't it the mind actually, or it's the study of psychological things, right?
Okay, guys, this is the exact definition of pathetic.
I don't think. Well, okay, listen.
Arousing pity, especially through vulnerability or sadness.
Right. So maybe in this case, the path root means pity.
I'm sorry, I was getting confused with pathology. For some reason, I was thinking of the mind right there, but pathology can relate to any diagnostic information on patients.
We're just trying to figure out what the etic is doing.
Check it out. The archaic definition of pathetic
here we go.
is relating to the emotions. So we've taken it to mean something else.
All right, there we go.
Than the initial definition of it.
We figured it out.
Wait, so etic does mean of or relating to.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then again, it's kind of like an extrapolation to say maybe it maybe it betrays a kind of Western bias against showing any emotion at all. Anyway, what's our topic again?
Oh, I see. Wait, that's an interesting side thing. You were talking about the difference between Eastern and Western societies with regards to showing emotion.
Well, in this, or just since I'm speaking from the Western.
That's a great topic.
It is a very good topic, actually.
Let's write it down for another
Actually,
episode.
that's a great topic. Although it would be hard for me because I don't know enough about the East to be like everyday.
Well, I'm not even
things
talking
in the
about
East.
East meets West. I'm talking about just
in general.
in general.
And also,
need to
not knowing
express
enough has
emotion
never
or not.
stopped me or any of us really from pontificating. Come on,
Well,
guys.
we clearly have been doing that on pathos and pathology and pathetic. Well, but we still
Anyway,
looked it up. We did our due diligence and looked it up.
You guys, that was your grammar corner for this week. So before we get to the topic, any news, any big news? Because we have an announcement to make.
We do?
Oh.
We have a Vintage Basement show coming up on February 2nd in
This
Brooklyn.
should be coming out, right?
Yeah, yes, this will be coming out before that. in
right.
Brooklyn at the Brooklyn Comedy Collective. And we got a great lineup for
Williamsburg.
it. We got Aparna Nancherla on there. We've
Love
got
her.
Mike Hanford. We've got Manolo Moreno, and we have Vanessa Jackson, including Max and Nicky.
Well, we'll be hosting and running the
hosting.
whole show and having a set ourselves as well.
Yeah, music and comedy.
Music and comedy.
And so it'll be a lot of fun. Make sure to get your tickets now at the Brooklyn Comedy Collective website. I think it's brooklyncc.com. But and hopefully,
Oh, just type into Google Brooklyn Comedy Club.
when Nikon starts,
Yeah.
and I think you are going to be starting to do stand up again soon. We would love to have you on the show again.
I would love to. Yes, I keep procrastinating coming up with a set, but I'm doing it. I'm getting back into
Do
it.
the material you did at your sister's wedding. That was good.
Yeah, just like do an entire wedding toast.
That would be funny. Oh my God, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, I mean, there's stuff there that's definitely usable. That's a good point. I hadn't
Make
thought
the
of that.
audience like your sister or something like
Well,
that.
the one-
or something.
Just
It'd be
pick
interesting.
someone out in the crowd. Yeah.
Well, no, just
thing-
make them like collectively. You're my sister right now, or
Okay,
something.
yeah.
Or I don't know. There's something could be used there.
The bit where you talk about how you and your sister you took baths together to a
Yeah.
certain age. That's a
Yeah.
funny bit. I think you could use that. You know?
I feel like, that's universally relatable. All right. You know what? That just saved me a lot of procrastination time. Oh, man. Great. So that's my announcement.
Sometimes you just need to rap with other comedians to get ideas flowing. I feel.
That is
So I'm
true.
going to pause real quick. Max,
Okay.
I feel like you're being a little too loud. Is that just me or not?
I think it might just be.
I think it's just you because I'm looking here.
But I feel like you're kind of shouting because you have your headphones on.
You
no.
guys are sounding pretty balanced.
I
to
think
me.
we're
This
actually
is
pretty-
staying in the podcast. By
I think
the way.
I'm
I
actually-
don't care what you say.
I think I'm a little bit louder than you, but
The tone with which you're speaking sounds like you're shouting.
You're coming off a little too enthusiastic, Max.
I think it's good. Well, I was about to call you Anton, which is my sister's husband.
What an
Nikon, timbrely, do I sound the same?
Yeah.
Do I sound the same now?
Yes,
What about
I'm tone deaf.
And time in.
We're keeping all of that.
Maybe we'll keep a little of it.
Anyway, so any other news before we move on to the main crux of the episode?
I don't know. I turned in this musical theater thing, and I kind of finished revising basically all of my musical. Although now I gotta look at the arrangements a little bit on the songs, but essentially, I turned it in, and so that was a lot of work, and so I feel
What did you
good
turn
about
in?
it.
What did you turn in? Like a bunch of
whole-
tracks or?
Tracks and the book.
Wow.
The whole
It's
musical.
amazing.
It's the whole
Wow.
musical, actually.
Cool.
Save for the orchestrations. But
What's the name of it? What's it about? Or do you know?
well,
give it away.
I'll tell you.
We put it on in
We
2013.
put it on
in San
2013,
Francisco.
yeah, in San Francisco, but have revised since. It's called A Match Made in Hell, and we'll leave it at that for right now.
Okay, I like it.
It's called A Match Made in Hell. It's a comedy with a little bit of pathos in there, and just a soupçon of pathos, we say. And
Getting that word from Frasier for sure.
That's another Frasier drop. Yeah, I like it.
It's a Frasier drop. I mean, although I did study France. I studied France. I studied France and French. In fact, that's where we met Nikon's sister. Nicky did meet her in France, actually.
Actually met Nikon in France as well.
That's right.
True. That's
That's
true.
right. It was a backyard party. I remember it well. And
I met you.
Wasn't it?
I
Maybe
met
I don't
you and your
remember
parents at the same time because you were visiting.
Yeah, yeah.
And
at a backyard party, wasn't it? At her place? No.
no, I met you before. If there was a party, I met you before then because I remember I just stopped by Kat's place real quick to drop something off. I was traveling, and as soon as I got off the airplane, I had to go to class, and so I was like, "Oh, I'll drop off my luggage at Kat and Molly's place because they live on the way to the campus." And so I did that, and then I said hi to you guys real quick.
In beautiful Lyon. If you haven't been to Lyon, France, you should go.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's get.
well, I just want to finish what I was going to say about the musical.
Oh yeah.
We Nicky and I plan on producing that and putting that up hopefully sometime in the fall of 2023.
Amazing.
Right here in New York City. But it's quite so look out for that.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
And hopefully our audience will too.
Sure.
Nikon,
anything to add? No, I'm excited for it. No, but for myself, I think we're good. I'm working on a musical myself, but it's I don't know what I'm doing, so it's going to be years before it comes out.
Are you seriously working on a musical?
Yeah. I'm teaching myself how to do it, and I'm doing it all the hard way, but it's
awesome.
fun.
But you and your sister are working on a book, right?
We are. It's been a while since we've worked on it. I don't want to give it away because
okay, then I won't. Let's not speak of it.
I don't want the competition to come in, but
we'll never speak of this again.
Stuff is being worked on.
Okay, there you go. Cool. Anyway, let's get to it, guys.
Let's.
Aging. So we've decided that Nikon will be the moderator today because
I'm the moderator.
He is not apathetic, but maybe indifferent to growing older.
indifferent.
I will take. If this is okay with you, Max, I'll take the position that at this point, it's maybe worse to get older. And maybe you can take the position that it is better to grow older. And I will add the caveat that maybe it depends on where you're at in your life, regardless of age.
Well, okay,
So
now you're already changing your position a little bit.
Well, yeah, I want to get some clarity here. So when you say it's worse, it's worse to get old. We're of course taking for granted the fact that the alternative is death, right? Like nobody has a choice.
No. Okay, so
to get older.
is it? So maybe we should define
our age limits.
Limits, like
so. At what point does it?
Does it start to suck?
As you go from childhood, you're always getting older, right? So at what point did it start getting worse to get older, or maybe you've always thought it's always worse to get older?
Well, okay, so I think maybe we should give the age at 30. It's after you turn 30. And I don't necessarily feel this way, but I'm going to take the position.
I think we're being too specific here. I think one of you needs to take it sucks to age, and the other needs to say it's awesome to age.
It's awesome to age.
And then we can dive into different things.
Yeah, okay, I agree. I agree with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know what I'll say.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, moderator.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's
So I will take the position that it's worse to get older.
Sure.
And Max, that's Nicky, and Max will be taking the position that it is better always and forever to get older.
And again, let's just get out of the way that the alternative to aging is death. So let's just
or not being born at all.
Or not being born at all, right? Because you have as long as you exist in this universe that we know, everything gets older because that's the nature of time.
Right. Well, that's also an interesting part of the conversation is as you get older, the thoughts of getting older, what society has deemed things that are appropriate or things that one should be doing as they get older, such as having a baby. Actually, that's kind of an idea to throw in.
So-
there.
That's an idea. That's something.
Marriage-
let's
marriage
start
and
with
kids.
opening. Let's start with opening thoughts and see what we land on. See what resonates.
All right.
So, what I want to say is, maybe this will sound a little depressing to some people.
I
It
feel
is
like
the eve of your birthday. After all, you're allowed to.
I feel like my happiest years in my whole life were probably from ages 0 to 5.
Wow, that is depressing.
well,
Because you're
I just-
so unjaded
Well, let me finish.
by the outside world and thoughts of inadequacy, or you're unadulterated and you're completely innocent and naive, and
so
it's
you
hard to
define-
get sad at those ages,
So you
over
define-
something more deep than, say, you hurt yourself.
Right. So you're defining your happiness not by necessarily a richness of experience, but by literally a lack of discomfort.
ignorance is bliss, is what Nicky's trying to say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Huh. Okay. All right. Well,
This
that's
is not
so
to say
that's
I haven't
interesting right
had
there.
happy times
Sure, of course.
since then, but I think that growing older, you are more susceptible to feeling the range of emotions and allowing different occurrences to cut deeper, you know?
Have you read any of the Stoic philosophers, Nicky?
Like who?
Stoicism.
Like
I know what you're talking about. Name some of them off for me.
that emperor, Aurelius.
Is
what's his
Montaigne
first
one
name?
of them? Or
No,
no,
that's
not. He's
we're
Renaissance.
talking about
Aurelius,
philosophers.
Marcus Aurelius, Marcus
Aurelius.
I'm cutting that out. Okay.
Seneca. Why? What?
No, the Montaigne. I don't want to seem stupid.
Well, no, that's the funny thing is like I haven't read the Stoics myself, but I've heard other people talk about the
Sure,
Stoics.
I've read a
That's pretty
Wikipedia
useful.
article on this on Stoicism.
I haven't read the Stoic philosophy. Maybe I did when I took my philosophy class in college, but I
It's
can't
possible.
remember it. So.
I feel like that's like a ladder course. Anyway, my point is though, it's like it's interesting because like, and maybe this is partially behind my
Indifference.
indifference. Yes, that was the word. Towards aging is that like I agree that there was the more innocent time where I didn't have to have a job. I didn't have to I didn't even have to
You have to worry about anything.
I like pooping in a diaper. What is more luxurious than not having to like leave whatever you're doing to defecate?
And somebody else can clean up for you.
Yeah. Somebody else.
Jeez
deals with it.
Louise,
It's
what a
fantastic.
life of Riley here.
So
for you.
sure, it's freer of stress and responsibility, and how am I going to put food on the table, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I feel like to define one's happiness from that, because think about you weren't writing musicals when you were 5 years old. You weren't.
But you didn't
performing-
care to. You also didn't care to write.
I feel like
Sure.
you're, as the moderator, you're already taking a position here, but okay.
Well, I feel like again, like Nicky, it was so like what you said was so sad to me that I feel like obligated to kind of be your therapist. but no, I know I take your point. I know that you're not a depressed human being.
Well, I mean, maybe I am, but
and
that's a whole
maybe
other.
If you are, that's okay too. Yeah. All right. So, anything else for your opening statements before we go to Max? Or
I'm just making the argument that as you grow older, you open yourself up to feeling the full range of emotions.
hold on, let me-
thus you are more likely to feel depressed at times and sad, and you're opening yourself up to maybe getting made fun of at certain points, or anyway, you just experience more. Therefore, you permit yourself to experience more sadness. And
yeah.
God, it is depressing the way as I'm saying it.
But
But
can I
well,
just?
Yeah. Well. So yeah.
I just don't want to add the little thing to what Nicky's saying. You're more susceptible to the whole range of complex emotions. I think you want to mention as you get older, because when you're really young, you still can feel sad and you can still feel happiness. You just have basic emotions. They're not. You're not tethered to you haven't tethered yourself to associations as much. You don't have as many associations. Maybe something. Well, also you don't have shame. You haven't felt shame yet. I guess that's also another.
I think there's shame. I don't know.
There's shame, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember.
But I think children feel.
I guess you're right. You do feel shame for
toddlers or whatever.
for pooing your pants.
No, well, I will say you don't feel shame. Actually, that's something that's imposed upon you by your parents. Actually,
I think that kind of stuff gets imposed upon you earlier than
That's
we
true.
might imagine.
But I would say shame, as when I'm talking about shame, is things that aren't inherently bad that you start to feel bad or start to feel self-conscious about. The way the clothes you wear,
that kind of stuff. Gotcha.
the way you might say something in class, even though you said something that might have been funny, and now you feel embarrassed about it or something.
Right. Here's an example of maybe what Max is, getting at is when we were 5 years old. I remember my mom coming home with a present for us, and Max and I were so excited. And she showed us the present, and it was these new shoes, and the brand was Voight, which was
which I've never heard of.
like a Target brand.
You shouldn't have heard of
It was a Target brand, and these
It was a
shoes
Target
were-
off-brand, yeah.
It was Target off-brand, and they were really cheap shoes. But Max and I didn't care. We just loved that we were getting these new shoes. It was a nice present, and it was this sort of thought that we didn't care about the brand. We just were excited.
My mom got us
shoes.
a present, and that was fun
And we were
for
so
us.
happy,
and they were new
innocently
shoes.
happy about that. And just thinking, just a couple years later, maybe even a year later, we would start asking for Nikes, and which would have been more expensive.
Right.
And we
And
started
would have
caring
not-
about those kinds of brands.
We would have been less happy
about getting Voights.
if we got Voights,
And so
that's true.
That sort of happiness, unadulterated happiness at just receiving a present, no matter what the brand, that's what it's all about.
Well, it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Nicky, that point that Nicky just brought up is sometimes when Nicky and we get pretty enthusiastic about something, sometimes even today that, and I recognize sometimes people think, oh, that's a little, maybe there's something about that's unusual maybe.
Weird is the word that will be thrown out.
Well, give me an example.
Okay, this happened in high school, I guess. But
Max and I get really passionate about talking about the things we like, but
well, no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Well, that's why we're here.
I don't know what we're talking about.
No, that is what I'm talking about, sort of to a degree. But in high school, in AP biology,
Okay.
I had to get into a group with people, and we had to come up with an idea for a certain project. And this one guy said, okay, how about we do this idea? And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I love that idea. That sounds really awesome. And I was really enthusiastic about it. And he's like, excuse my language, but he's like, shut up, you asshole. He called me an asshole. And I was like, what did I do?
An asshole.
He thought I was being sarcastic. And
Who was that?
just some guy, you don't know who he is. And I was like,
Say his
what?
name. Let's
Why-
shame him on this podcast.
I don't know. I really don't know
okay,
his name, but I was like, what did I do? I don't know what the problem is. And then my friend
funny.
who was in the group was like, no, he's just like that. As if I was the wrong person here for expressing my
Right.
enthusiasm. But it was this weird, as you get older, you put up walls to let yourself be genuine, I would say. I guess there's a certain...
Max has
Well-
hit it right on the nose
Well,
there.
okay.
Listen, I don't
No.
think you guys should do that though.
Should what?
Should put up walls.
No, you
I think
shouldn't.
yeah,
You
well, okay.
shouldn't. And that's what I'm saying.
Again, I
is-
feel like I'm being your therapist here.
I'm not saying Nicky and I don't
You guys
put
have
up walls.
therapists? You guys should get therapists.
No, other people do put up
I'm
walls.
saying other people put
Oh,
up
other
walls so
people.
that there
Right,
was
right,
this
right, right,
assumption. There was an assumption that I was being sarcastic because he thought that how could somebody possibly be genuinely enthusiastic
Sure.
here? And I just thought, oh, that's a shame, actually.
Right.
And so I guess what Nicky is saying is the more we get older, the more walls we put up to express and maybe perhaps allow ourselves
Some
to feel
people.
to not everybody, but
Yeah.
to allow ourselves to feel and express our true, genuine emotions, I guess. And not to say that Nicky and I are more genuine than any other people. I guess we get
Sure.
because I think that is also part of that is still being genuine to a degree is that you putting up walls, that is a part of who you are, actually. So there's a
that's one specific
that's what makes there's certain
archetypical personality, right? Like there's the type of person who puts up walls, there's the type of person who's an open book and all that kind of stuff, you know? So
I will say, but even people that are more open book, as they say, sometimes people are, you know, are
they're hiding
open book about their lives.
Yeah.
There's still something
They're hiding.
They'll do it in a more adult way, I suppose, as it were.
All right. Well, you know, I always am hesitant when I hear generalizations and stuff like that. But I think something true that we can say though is that as you age, you are like it's you know, inevitable that you are exposing yourself to more opportunities to get scarred. Right?
Exactly.
Yes. That's true for everything and everybody. That's like part of how the universe unfolds. You know, it's probably, I don't know, something to do with the definition of entropy, but I think
got to look that up now.
Well, I think it's one's point of view on all of that. You know, that inevitability that makes the difference between whether you dread aging or accept it with open arms. Yes. Have we even heard your opening?
We haven't heard my opening statements.
Although we have heard a lot from Max already, right?
Well, sure. Let's hear your opening remarks.
Just because you just mentioned that, I do want to say though, yes, you leave yourself to be quote unquote more vulnerable and open to scarring, probably because of other people that start judging you. You start to judge more as you get older. That's another thing. People judge more.
This is turned into a group therapy session.
Right. Let's get back to
I'll get back to my opening argument. Yeah, I'm pro-aging. Pro-Asia. That sounds like some sort of you know, pill you can take or something like that. Or Pro-Asia the band. Band Asia, or the album Asia by Steely Dan. I'm definitely pro-Asia, the album by Steely Dan. Anyway, okay. So enough of that. Let's get back to the introduction here, finally.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. Shut up, you asshole.
Oh, my God. Whoa,
I'm just kidding.
Nicky,
I'm just kidding.
What happened?
I said excuse my language because I'm calling back to the story you just told.
All right, I know. I'm just kidding. Okay.
Because you're getting really excited about it. Anyway, we'll cut that out, I guess.
No, keep it in. Keep it in. All right. So I'm pro because, check it out. Life, I think if you don't get older and start to accept all these different things that are happening as you grow older, life can get pretty monotonous, actually. So as you get older, I'm open to the idea of seeing how life unfolds. That's the beauty of life. It's ever changing.
Totally.
And as you get older, you get wiser, for one. You learn more about life. And in fact, as you get past your 30s, I would say you start to learn to deal with the certain pressures and things that maybe had in your teens and 20s better. And you start to realize that certain things that once bothered you, you don't really care that much about it anymore because you're older. You're like, I'm not as anxious about that anymore. You have a different perspective, and you realize in the grander scheme of things, that doesn't really matter to me. What really matters are these things. And so you can maybe enjoy your life even more. And, well, let's just leave it at that for right now.
Yeah,
I
like
forgot
that.
exactly what I was going to say.
Well, because I like that because it kind of addresses a lot of what Nicky said,
Right.
And it's like, yes, sure, yeah, there's a lot more pain, and you don't get to sit and watch cartoons all day while pooping your pants whenever you feel like
says
it,
you.
and having someone else clean up.
Again,
But
says you.
But your experience is much richer. And some people say that the highs are higher because you have lows, and you have the lows to compare the highs to, and so
Sure.
You got to have the valleys with the peaks in order for the peaks to be to pop. I guess I don't know. Yes.
Oh, can I get a
I think. Well, yeah. So
I
Max
just
had
need to
his
finish
hand
my
up
intro.
first.
You just spoke, man.
Max had his hand up first, but Nicky hasn't talked in a while. So I'm sorry. As the judge, I got to give it to Nicky. But Max, hold that thought.
Well, the reason I didn't put my hand up first was I was waiting for Nickon to speak and finish before, interrupting with a hand raise. Anyway.
Well, I mean, Primarily, I think people are listening audio-wise, but anyway.
Anyway, what I wanted to say is, and this is not to dispute my own argument, but to piggyback off of what you guys are saying, is when my sister got married, I just thought, that's it. She's getting older. It's not going to be fun anymore. You know, she's going to be doing stuff with her husband and not going to be wanting to hang out.
And her baby.
Well, let me get to that.
Sorry.
And I'm like, she's not going to want to hang out anymore or, be on late night calls. And I was wrong about that. She was able to still have fun doing that and be very funny. But then when she had a baby, I just thought, okay, for sure she's not going to be able to hang out late at night anymore and be joking around, during the holidays late at night. And I was wrong about that too. She was able to still handle being an adult and having a baby and a husband, but also have fun with the siblings still, like she did when we were younger,
And also, can I piggyback off that?
Well, hold on.
Okay.
And we're still able to laugh the same way we did, and the thought of growing older was better because it was just adding more joy instead of taking away. It was just adding to the joy with this new baby, for example. It's brought other people together.
Would you say your sister's become more herself over the years? Or am I just...
No, she's really had a good idea about who she was for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well.
Screw
me then, huh? But I do think. I mean, personally, let's talk about our personal trajectory.
You have a fiance.
That kind of stuff aside, because I will admit, a lot of my friends got married in our 20s, and I was like, oh God, like, what are you doing? Sure. In hindsight, I'm pretty sure that most of that was just my kind of fighting the idea of aging and maturing. And it's like, oh man, we were having so much fun, and now you guys are just throwing it all away with responsibility and all that kind of stuff.
That's exactly the way I thought.
So what I'm about to say, nope, lost it. As it relates to aging, for me personally, at least, I do feel like it was somewhere around my early 30s that I really started to click, like who I am to myself. It's like, oh, okay, I have a better sense of who I am and what's good about me, what's useful about me.
I'm me.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
I'm Nickon, and that's
I'm good
okay.
enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, I don't even know. So yeah. So that's why I was asking the leading question about your sister. It's not true for everybody. Some people, know themselves when they're very young. And
I think part of...
I envy them.
Well, I think that's also another thing that maybe I'm speaking on behalf of Nicky here as well, but I feel like Nicky and I, yes, we learn things and we become slightly different as we get older. We have different experiences that change us for sure. But I feel like we've always had a fairly good sense of ourselves since maybe we were in high school, actually. Right, Nicky? Would you say that?
I would, but now that I'm thinking about what you guys are saying, I will say in support of my argument is the older you get, the more you are influenced by others, and you might lose touch with who you really are.
Whoa.
Disagree.
Hold on, let me disagree.
Well,
yeah.
I'm the judge,
so,
but I disagree.
And maybe, look, I've been very influenced by my older siblings throughout my life, especially my older brother, and in mostly positive ways. But there's some things that maybe I regret being too influenced by that maybe changed my outlook on certain aspects of life and caused me to direct my life in a certain way that maybe was going against my true gut of who I wanted to be. And so...
Do you have any specific examples of this?
Maybe as it pertains to romance and my dating life, And so the older you get, the more, or at least in my particular case, the older I got, the more I was being influenced by that. But I guess in support, even the older I got, after that, the more I realized that, and the more I'm trying to change that.
Exactly.
There you go.
Well, yeah, because it's like, okay, sure, influence is here, influence is there. I mean, for me, my biggest influences in middle school, for example, were my friends, and they were a bunch of idiots. But it's I love them all, that kind of stuff, but they're idiots. And
Including what's his face at JCC summer camp?
Sam Goldman. Yeah,
No,
well,
Chaz.
Chaz.
Yeah.
They were all
He better be
idiots.
listening.
Shout out! You better be listening.
You better be listening. But over time, as you start to have more experiences and become more influenced by more people, you start to kind of get a sense for what's the useful influence and what's the stuff that you should let go of.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, all you're doing is solidifying your sense of right and wrong and like what
Sure.
you should and shouldn't be influenced by.
Man, this is the moderator speaking, of course.
Another thing.
completely apathetic.
I mean, I will say though, but the older you get, the more, at least from me, that means the more regrets you're going to have. Like
The more
this is a
regrets,
depressing thought.
well, what Nicky's saying with regards to, because as you said, there's certain things that he influenced him when he was a little bit younger that he wished he had changed earlier. So in other words, I think what he's saying is if I hadn't chosen those things, I wouldn't have these regrets now that I'm older, is what he's saying, I guess.
Right, exactly.
But now that you're older, you at least have the ability to change whatever those stupid behaviors were.
It's too late.
It's never too late, Nicky.
That's
it's never
really
too
a
Max,
depressing-
Max, tell your
just
twin
joking,
brother
I'm
it's
just
never too
joking.
late.
Nicky,
Well,
it's
okay,
never
so
too
Max,
late.
Sort of.
you had a
Well,
thought that you wanted to
another
share,
thing
yeah.
about getting older, especially when you hit 30, I feel like when you start being in your 30s, you start to get more respect, I feel. When you're in your 20s, you're still kind of stupid, actually, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like,
Or
you
people who are older
I mean,
might
look,
view you
to be
that
honest,
way.
you're still always learning, and you do stupid things no matter what age, I would say.
If
but
you're living a good life,
yeah. Wait, sure, okay.
I think the sign of a good life is, did you do a lot of stupid things along the way? And, again, with like, without murdering people and all that, like, I don't know how we're defining stupid, but I draw the line at murder.
Murdering people, I don't want to call that stupid. I would just call it insane or something. I don't know. Maybe not use the word stupid.
Sure, yeah. But
Yeah, that guy who murdered that guy the other day.
What an
He
idiot.
was stupid.
He was
Yeah, he was an
stupid.
idiot.
If I could use one word to describe, I can't even think of someone. Jeffrey Dahmer. Anyway, okay. Go on.
What a stupid
What a
guy
complete
Jeffrey
idiot.
Dahmer was.
What a dum-dum.
What a
That
dum
Jeffrey
dum.
Dahmer, man.
Yeah, what a dum dum.
Stupid.
I cut you off though, Max. What were you saying?
I feel like you start to get a little more respect because you've had life experience being an adult. You've entered the workplace. You've had to be on your own for a little bit, at least a decade now,
Sure.
And so when you get in your 30s, I feel like older
People
people
are impressed that you've made it this far.
Yeah.
Or maybe not impressed, but they're like, okay, well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, let me pose the question:
No.
as
Okay, I wasn't done yet,
people
but-
in our 30s, do you view people
Let the record show that
in their
Max wasn't
20s
done.
now as sort of not being? Do you kind of look down on them to a certain degree?
Personally, I don't have to look down on them to. It just comes up in conversation and interactions. The lack of perspective in certain scenarios, like this guy still or this gal still has a few things to learn about how to deal with other people, or
Yeah.
And so I don't come a lot of my friends are in their 20s. And love them, have a great time with them, and then every once in a while they do or say something that's like, oh yeah, okay, this person still has a bit of growing up to do.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Here's an example, a good example of getting maybe more respect or just seeming cooler, actually. Nicky and I did this birthright trip to Israel.
2014.
It was a free trip, and Nicky and I were based in San Francisco at the time, and we weren't. It was our last year that we could possibly go. We were 26.
It was our last year of eligibility.
And I know we hadn't even reached 30 yet, but this kind of exemplifies what I'm talking about. Is that they said, hey, we can't guarantee a San Francisco trip in your age group, but we can guarantee if you want to make sure you go on the trip, you can go with these people from Las Vegas.
No, Nevada.
Nevada, who are 18 to 23.
To 22.
18 to 22, even better. And Nicky and I were like, all right, well, we want to go, so let's just, we'll take it. And
we thought it would suck to be with a lot of younger people.
Well, we just thought Nicky and I were we'll just hang out with each other and we'll have a good time anyway. Yeah. And we didn't think we were going to hang out with those people. Turned out, man, what a blast we had with those 18 to 22-year-olds. And you know what? Nicky and I seemed like the really cool kids, actually, because we were older. We knew about stuff.
We made them all laugh. We played guitar and piano and had everybody singing along to songs.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool.
it was a lot of fun. And not to say that we aren't normally the cool kids, but I feel like
somebody who would say it like that,
I know, proves that I am so cool.
Clearly.
No, but I think in this particular case, it really seemed like we kind of had an influence over the dynamic of that group.
Sure. So you're saying the older you get, the more influence and positive influence you can have over younger people.
Right.
Of course. Or people in general. You have that wisdom.
Yeah. There you go.
Right.
You have a stronger foundation.
Respect. It's all about respect.
The roots, your roots. If you think about your life as being a tree, at this point in your mid-30s, you guys are turning what again?
35.
Maybe
35,
I'll pull
solidly mid-30s.
Jack Benny and all. I'm perennially 30 years old. Anyway, Jack Benny. That's a
reference.
I think we
can
explain
that reference.
Jack Benny is
man.
Let's hear it.
I think Max is not turning 35.
I'm actually 75 years old.
75 years old, actually.
I know. I don't know why I brought that up, but Jack Benny, he had a big influence on Johnny Carson, for instance. Actually, that's how old this reference is. He's a broadcaster on the radio before TV, even, and then in the TV era, he was kind of in the golden age of television. I guess he was a big influence on a lot of people because he had been through the business for a while at that point, even, and he had a variety show, I believe, at one point, and on TV, and he influenced a lot of people with that, and I don't know, a lot of stars, even in the 60s, the Beach Boys were on it.
What does this have to do with him
reference
saying,
about,
I'm perennially 30 years old?
That was a bit of his, because he had been around the business for so long.
Yeah.
He would always say that, I believe, that he was 30 years old, even though he was clearly a lot older. And so he would always say, I think he would just never tell his age. That was the thing. He would never say his age, and he would say that he was always 30.
Well, okay, so Max, this is a good point. Max is always sort of hesitant to reveal his true age because he's afraid of how people will perceive that on him. And he wants people to think he's younger in a way.
You think that's a showbiz thing?
It's a showbiz thing.
But that's
exclusively, actually. That's the only reason, actually.
But
it has nothing to do with...
So on a podcast, you can reveal how old you are, right? Why would you be afraid?
Well, because...
See, exactly.
Hopefully this podcast can lead to some opportunities,
that means growing older, you're afraid of the age itself. I'm just going to say we are turning 35.
Actually, no, I'm not afraid personally about the age. I'm afraid that other people are afraid of the age.
But isn't that's all in your head, right? Because who doesn't love? Because I think the narrative that you're talking about is like, oh well, if you haven't made it by 28, then who are you? Then you're not special, right? But that's just a voice in your head saying that.
Well, okay, so that's an interesting.
Well, this is an interesting point,
and that was kind of part of my next section.
Go ahead, Nicky.
Because that's something that I've dealt with. I've struggled with, and now
this is
something. This is the main reason why I want to argue that it's worse to grow older.
Sure, I understand, Nicky. I feel this too.
Look, we're turning 35 tomorrow, and the older I get, the more I see younger people than me get the amount of success that I wish I have now, and it depresses me. And I'm at this age right now, and I'm like, man, I'm not making a comfortable living at the thing I want to do the most by this age. And the older I get, the more that is just, this constant nagging on me that, gosh, something's better happen soon, and so it makes me more anxious the older I get, and makes me, I guess, more depressed about it, and
Sure. Well, not
so
to play
that's the
therapist
thing
again.
I have to constantly deal with, especially because we're in show business,
The business of show, yes. Okay, not to play therapist again, but imagine a friend of yours. I can't believe I'm doing this. Imagine a friend of yours who's had your exact career trajectory, is your exact age, but he's a friend, or she, that you love dearly, and they're coming to you with this same, expression of depression. What would you say to them?
Expression of depression.
I'm trademarking that. What would you say to that? Can I do that? What would you say to that friend?
Well,
Are they talented?
Yes, they're just
not to say that
almost as talented as you guys. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
That's what it seemed like you were saying. Max.
That was an underhanded compliment brag, actually.
That was an underhanded.
I like it.
That-
I like it. That's the
I didn't even
confidence
mean
you
to
need
say
get-
that, actually.
to get somewhere in this business. But
guess
what would you
so,
say to that friend?
That's interesting. I would say you got to keep going at it, because something is going to happen soon. I just know it. I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I have talented friends who have, the older they've gotten, they have given up on show business, and they've, like, I have a friend who got his MFA in acting from NYU, and he's happy with his life now. He moved to Alabama, and he's married and has a kid, and he's our age, but part of me is saddened by the thought that he gave up on the art of acting.
Sure.
And so I would tell the
But
friend
he's
this.
happy.
He is happy, but I would tell the friend this. I would say it would bum me out to see you give up on this, because I think you have the talent to make it. It might just take you a little bit longer than others, and so I think you should keep going.
That's, that, I think that's valid. I think that's just as valid as saying, like, hey, you're Dave Chappelle at 16. You're, born to be a star. But not every single person on the planet but Dave Chappelle is not Dave Chappelle, right? And
Right. But, the older I get, though, I see these younger people getting success, and I see the world changing too, and my frames of reference are getting older too, and maybe they're
You mean
outdated.
Jack Benny?
They're becoming outdated at this
wait,
point.
Jack Benny is suddenly becoming outdated? I don't believe you.
No, well, so I see like a certain sense of humor develop with younger, early 20-somethings, and I'm like, I can't relate to this. And is this becoming the dominant form of humor right now? And
Even if it is,
as comedians, that's depressing to me.
I think, I don't know, like, this is someone who's just coming off a year away from stand-up, but you hear more and more about, like, how niche and fragmented the audiences are anyway. So who cares if the Gen Zers are listening to, I have no idea, and I don't care, and it's like, that's fine. It's like, not even I don't resent them or anything like that, but it's just like, that's not your audience. And
this is not to say we don't do
in
well
a country
in
of
Gen
350 million people, all you need is a small percentage of that in order to have a career, right?
Well, I think Patrice O'Neill once said,
yeah,
if you're doing well in front of everybody all the time, then you're doing something wrong. Or something to that degree. He said, you don't want to be doing well all the time in front of every single audience member.
That's exactly right. And Patrice O'Neill is the perfect example of someone who's undeniably talented. He was just you ask anybody and they would say, yes, this guy is one of the most talented comics there are. But I don't know, in any randomly selected room, what percentage of like the women, for example, would actually say, yes, I want to keep listening to this. And, I'm saying percentage wise, like it's anyway, the point is like, you just need I don't even know what. Okay. So, I just, and I'm saying this because
tangents are formed on this.
First of all, I'm older than you guys. I'm 38 and I'm not afraid to say it.
Although I will say, I called Nickon on his birthday. And I said, "Oh wow, you've reached your late 30s."
Yeah.
And he said, let's say I'm still in my mid 30s. I reserve late 30s for 39. I feel like there was a little bit of a self-consciousness
sure, but that's
about
more
saying
of like a fun. Yeah, no, I mean, yes, of course. But so just to be clear,
actually say 37 is your late 30s.
I define my 30s as 30 through 34 is your early 30s.
Yeah, right.
And then 35 through 38 is your mid 30s, and then 39 is your late 30s, and then
that's
you're 40
really
and
bizarre
then you die.
math that you have there.
I mean, look, it is kind of a funny, fun thing. I'm not holding Nickon to that as a real.
We're not
going to
split hairs
how
on
he
that.
feels about.
We're splitting hairs here, though.
But I did think it was funny to hear.
Yeah, but the point is, so I dealt with this myself, and I think I'm in a good place with it, which is that, we're not athletes. We're not talking about something where you're putting your body through something, and like you only have like a small window within which you can excel or even do, make a living, right? We're talking about something that everybody who continues doing it, unless they're just completely out of touch with reality, gets better the longer they do it.
Yes, I agree. And that's what I think with regards to show business, getting respect actually. I have a friend actually, he's a very close friend of ours. He said that he has a hard time finding people under 30 funny actually. He thinks they can be funny.
Sure.
But he feels like they haven't had enough life experience yet and just experience on the stage to really feel like they truly get it, truly.
Yeah, like they're in command of whatever they're talking about, or they have.
And to you also find your voice on stage. The more you do it.
This is for listeners who are not involved in the
perspective.
entertainment business. This is specific to being a comedian or musician or performing,
or a writer or a director or anything like that. Anything,
Sure.
I think anything creative, really. Like,
sure, but
although
some of the
one
most
could
famous
argue,
artists,
one could argue that here as an artist, when you get to a certain age, you might have lost touch, and you've exhausted all your best work by a certain age.
But you're thinking, you have a very specific thing in mind that's completely built out of your imagination, right?
I'll say like somebody like Paul McCartney or Stevie Wonder,
sure,
Billy Joel, all their best stuff, happened in the 60s and 70s.
But wouldn't you say that at least part of that
80s,
detachment, part of that detachment from reality is just how successful they got and just how little they can understand the struggles of the common person and blah, 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 blah. So it's less a function of your age than your connection to the day-to-day struggle, which I, would argue that you guys are very much in touch with still.
Maybe inspires you more or motivates you more to create something
and
good.
All that's different is that you have slightly more tools in your toolbox simply by having been around the planet of the sun.
Well, I could say
the planet of the sun.
Somebody
been around the moon a couple more times. Anyway,
I will say, somebody like Quentin Tarantino, he still makes great work.
Yes.
But
that man's a genius, though.
I think that it is pretty unanimous that most people, I guess almost unanimous, that people will say Pulp Fiction is his best film. And that was his second movie.
Sure, but Pulp Fiction is one of the greatest films of all time, period. Like,
sure, but he was younger when he made that,
Yeah, but
he was in his 30s.
I think it was like early 30s. But still, listen.
Exactly. my point exactly.
So every Tarantino, almost every Tarantino movie, I don't count the Grindhouse. That's not That's just whatever. That's an abomination. But
I actually enjoy
like
Death Proof.
Death Proof. It's not.
It's definitely
purposely his worst film.
It's purposely whatever it is, but I don't need to spend my time watching it. But yeah, no, I agree. It's like he does have his own. You know, anyway, just because everything he's done since then is just by how we're defining things worse doesn't mean they're not all really, really amazing top tier movies that could go toe to toe with literally any movie that comes out in a given year, right?
And I actually do think that, for example, The Hateful Eight is better than Django Unchained, and that came out later. You know,
although
well,
that's
we don't
not
need to go down this path because I got opinions, but
oh man,
well, that's not
that's
not the prevailing opinion. I feel like Nicky, we're in the outliers on that.
No,
actually.
or you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think is better than Django Unchained. But
whatever.
Anyway,
yeah, one's career. It's foolish
There's
to assume
peaks
that
and
the
valleys,
trajectory is just going to go a straight line up, right? So, I guess what you're getting at though is
or a straight line down
or down. The main reason that you are, well, let's hear it. Like, let's articulate it.
The older I get, I feel like perhaps the more my talent will be exhausted, and maybe if I haven't gained a success by a certain age, I won't have anything of value to give anymore. You know.
Can I say something here on that?
Sure.
The thing is,
should
Nicky,
should we try to wrap it up in these 5 minutes? Or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
We should
try our best.
Try
but
best, yeah.
Nicky, I just want to say though, with regards to that, is the talents that you have supposedly exhausted at that point, they haven't been seen by everybody yet. So you have this whole catalog of stuff that the world hasn't seen yet. That's the thing with the Beatles or Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder and Billy Joel is everyone saw it already. You have all this trove of stuff, you know, these treasures that not everyone's seen yet. So even if you exhausted everything, your creative output, who cares? Nobody. You can still use all this back catalog of stuff you have.
And honestly, being a successful artist shouldn't be defined by reaching the lowest common denominator. It should be defined by.
I like how you put it as reaching the lowest common denominator. Anyway,
have you found an audience? Are you operating at the best year? Like, look at Mark Norman. Bad example. Look at Mark Maron though, right? Like, he struggled for decades, and then he found his audience. And
struggled is a loose term there.
Sure,
he was still able to appear on Conan very regularly.
Yeah. Well, yes.
As a talking head or a panelist, you know. I mean, that's.
But I would, if you had asked him, like, are you like feeling comfortable in your living? I don't think he would have said yes up until like maybe 10 years ago.
Right.
Sure. Well, one would argue he's still never comfortable the way he is.
I mean, I don't listen to him anymore, but like he admits that he's doing. He like finally admits that he's doing well for himself, and he is.
Sure. Well, no.
God bless him.
Absolutely, he's doing. Oh, of course, he's doing. He's in movies and stuff now.
Yeah.
I mean, sure.
I think he makes enough off his podcast to like. Anyway,
he's got one of the most successful podcasts.
Yeah. So
that's true.
Not as successful.
My point is just because like the majority of the people that we see as geniuses or like the most successful or whatever, yes, they pop when they're younger. Doesn't mean that there aren't very many examples of people who really hit their stride in their 40s, 50s, 60s.
Sure.
And it's a smaller sampling, but I think the thing that differentiates them is that they kept going.
I'll
that's
piggyback
true. That's
off
that's a very good point, Nikon. Actually, they did decide to keep going. That's
Zach
true.
Galifianakis finally hit it really big when he was 40.
There you go.
The Hangover movies really catapulted him. And although he was in the Comedians of Comedy, that was a couple of years before that. But
he was in Out Cold. We can't forget Out Cold.
Out Cold. Well, you know, he was actually just straight up trying to be an actor before he became a comedian. Actually,
is that right? Oh wow. Oh, that's what a waste of acting that would have been.
Well, but here's when just to counter the side I'm on.
We should really close.
Well, I'll just close it up with just saying that. Well, I don't want to end on something depressing, but.
We started depressing. Let's end depressing.
We'll just move this over into another place in the podcast. But
okay.
I just want to say that Nicky, I think because of that, the perspective is that here's the thing: people who are in their 20s that get successful, some of them aren't very talented, and yet they still do get success. And so that's a little bit of a depressing thing, that maybe it is the age thing that, they have a vitality nevertheless because they're younger and they're getting success, even though they don't really deserve it necessarily. That sometimes we see that kind of a thing that happens a lot, actually.
Sure.
And so,
but if they're not talented, they're successful in their 20s, but if they're not talented, they're eventually going to be pushed out of the limelight.
I guess, but there's always going to be an audience that'll hang on to,
or they will develop their talents.
And good for them. Or that, they'll find some other talent.
Look,
too,
but that's always existed
Steve-O
throughout the
does
history of entertainment, right?
It's like,
it's true, but Steve-O's been funny.
Anyway,
sure, a different kind of funny.
Look, you can choose to feel depressed about getting older, but it's better to.
Well, you don't choose to get depressed.
I think you do. That's a different topic.
But it's better to have a positive outlook and think, hey, I'm just getting wiser and I'm getting more experience, and that's cool.
Did we just get a reversal here?
Yeah,
well, I like to end on a positive note.
Sure.
Well, regardless of my true feelings.
I guess you can choose.
See, Nicky is choosing to be depressed at the end.
Well, no, I think it's hard. Things are easier said than done. It's hard to get out of these impositions that society has placed on you of what defines success, at what age success is supposed to happen. So it's hard to get out of that, that vicious cycle, I guess,
Yeah. And I think
Anyway.
I think we've covered a lot of good ground here. Ultimately, listen, nobody has any choice. You're going to age. If you want to keep living, you're going to age. And you just have to accept that. And you can choose whether that's upsetting or somehow gratifying. But I would say that with the scars comes a richer experience, more perspective, and the opportunity to do more with the talents that you develop over time.
If you've enjoyed what you've heard and watched today, make sure to hit.
Well, what's everybody felt like they got their closing statements out?
Whatever. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think your closing statement was good. Closing
I think
statement.
I don't want
to go.
If you've enjoyed what you heard and saw today, If you've heard.
How long are we gonna?
This is all going in. We gotta keep this in, man. We gotta keep this in.
If you've enjoyed what you heard and watched today, please on YouTube hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening on any streaming services, make sure to rate and review our podcast because it helps us gain more listeners and helps this podcast to succeed.
And grow.
And grow.
And get older.
And get older.
Yes. And better with time.
And better with time.
Like a fine wine, you only get better with age.
That's right. See, there
fine red wine. A fine red wine, I should say.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Splitting Hairs with Max, Nicky, and Nickon.
Please keep tuning in.